Pre-patch will start in 7 to 8 days depending on when you're watching and where you are watching. And this video is going to be here to hype you up for PvE and PvP. I'm going to talk about all the classes again. I already did that multiple times, but now I'm going to hype you up with every single class. I'll try to be not that negative, and I'm going to try to give you even more brain headaches towards the choice that you are going to make for TBC. I think it's a fantastic time to play because TBC, first and foremost, is going to come back. And we don't know if it's going to ever come back. We don't know that if there will be a TBC era. So if you want to experience once more TBC truthfully Blizzard-like, Blizz-like, then this is your chance, basically. While Midnight will come out also this year. If you don't like Door Within, most likely you're not going to like Midnight. They're both the same. But TBC is pretty much like a extension of Classic Plus. An extension of Classic, which you can regard it as Classic Plus. Okay? So let's talk about every single class. Personally, I'm going to give out my mains. And I'm still undecided on what I'm going to boost or not. Or whether I will be boosting a character or not. 80 euros is a lot. I don't want to boost like a character that will not play. So obviously, I also make this video for myself, hyping up on the classes and making myself even more headaches when it comes down to choosing my classes. But my mains are locked in pretty much, like two mains. I'm going to try to play a third, maybe a fourth, but it will be Warlock and Warrior. I have knowledge about Druid and Priest as well, but the two that I'm going to level the first are like Warlock and Warrior, and you still have to invest a bit of time in TBC, even though I think a lot of the time gating or time like spent that you have to do to get gear is a bit overblown. I think it's not that hard to get gear, but it's still like a time investment. All right, so Warlock and Warrior, let's talk about Warlock first. So Warlock in PvP is insanely fun. I think if you're looking for like a true 2v2 experience where you can play with mostly all the classes, like I tested everything because I wanted to like be sure like, okay, this class can play with me, this class cannot play with me, but basically you can play with any class. In 2v2 my preferred comp would be Rogue because it's very high paced, and yes, it's a bit like chess where we know chess, like we know what to do at what point, and if there is a resist, then like the patterns are a bit changing, but we know our win conditions, and sometimes we know when we're losing 100%, right? We can just slash AFK and go next. But 2v2, you can play with a healer, which is Druid or Priest. You can even play with a Resto Shaman, basically. It's not like super good, but you could try. You can play with a Rogue as double DPS. You can play with a Mage even, if you like. I think later seasons where you get like a bit more survivability, you can do well. And yes, sometimes versus a Rogue, if you don't play SLSL, that's kind of sucks. But overall, you have a lot of damage. And even SLSL, where you would think, oh, it just is about surviving. No, actually your dots hurt a lot because you get a lot of spell power from your demon because you have a talent that gives you spell power based on stamina and intellect of your pet. And your dots really hurt, like putting just Siphon Life, Corruption, Agony, that's a lot of damage. And then if you put an Immolate, like that guy is just like burned. And then you get like a Searing Pain spam and oh no, they're going to kick it. Oh, you still got Fear. They kick you on fire, no problem. Have like Shadow and you're going to get feared, or hell, if I get a Nightfall proc, you're doomed. And that's the kind of what I like about this LSL as well. And I also like UA. UA is also cool because you have like instant CC. You can also play in twos. I think it's a bit better in later seasons where you can survive a bit more, but I think in threes it's also very fun to be able to protect your Shadow Priests, his dots, and at that point you are really useful. And then you have your distro where, again, in BGs, if you do plan to play BGs, I think it's one of the funniest specs to play. Does a lot of damage, and you're not as squishy because, like, again, in BGs, you're not going to be the sole focus, while in arenas, you might be the sole focus if you're playing 2v2. And then I'll talk about Rogue, but you could also play with a Warrior, and then, like, it's a very Go-centric comp where you're winning, basically, if your Warrior is connecting with a Moral Strike, that's unhealable damage with dots on him. Like, you cannot heal through it. It's like, imagine you have a 5 wound poison, instantly on the target, like that's the GG's. And yes, you don't have a lot that many survivability options, and you don't have like that many like peel options. But it just takes like one more strike and your full row of dots to like burn someone. Like it's really really cool as well. You could play like again, you can make it work with SP, although like again I'm not really a fan of that. But you can work with a lot of classes, and that's what is fun about like Warlock. And then in raids, yes, you are the one button machine, the one seed corruption of doom. But it is like a lot of damage. Like you are one of the most likely to hit the 10k crits the fastest. You are so desired. You're going to get invited directly if you're like in LFG, especially if you are good at your parses, and people will look at parses. It just is what it is. That's the nature of the game, and that's one of the ways to get fun out of like content that is supposedly easy. But you're desired even like if you are not the best, because you are like still the one pumping the most damage, and it's really hard to f up a rotation of like consisting of just one button, and sometimes an immolate, sometimes like an extra curse on the target. And again, you have also affliction, which is also a spec by itself, like a support spec, which is still like a top 4 top 5 contender when it comes down to dealing damage. So it's really really good. And then I think open world farming is so good. You're able to solo bosses for like gear, the Quagmire's Eye, for example, that you're supposedly going to farm. You can solo it. There are multiple videos about it. And I think it just is a cool fantasy class. Like I think the tier sets look crazily good. Like look at this. Fell hard. No, anyways, fell hard. It's not really fell hard. Whatever. Tier 4 gear. I'm not really good at names, I'm very sorry. And I think TBC as well like is the start of like Warlocks being like even more profoundly like like I think from TBC to Wrath it just gets better, and then it goes crazy from Cataclysm and Miss Pandaria, whatever. But like I really like the still classic feel of Warlock in TBC, and then in Wrath you do get TP, whatever. But I would have liked it in TBC, but would be too strong in TBC, I guess. But what I like about the Warlock is really that I feel comfortable while playing it. And it's a comfy class to play, and I think it's one of the classes that you can learn very well PvP with. Although there is like a skill expression to it, surviving and to know when to dot, when to hold your dot so your friend can CC, for example. Or when to use your dispel, when to hold your dispel so you can dispel your friend or yourself. Those are things that are really good at PvP, and I feel a skill cap is really high when it comes down to like knowing what to do, when to do it. While in PvE, I think it's like a very beginner's friendly class where you just press one button most of the time and still are going to do very well, and then you have to hold yourself with damage so you don't pull threat. But that's also like kind of a skill at its own, like not wiping the raid because you wanted to do top damage, for example. That is for Warlock in my eyes. I think if you're looking into a caster to be good in PvP, be good in PvE, be good in open world, be good in dungeons, be good in everything, I think Warlock is like the top dog when it comes down to that. And yes, you could say Mage is the same, which is like acceptable to me. Like I think Mage is also very good, but it has a certain charm to have like a permanent pet and be one of the most tankiest classes in the game naturally, not through like ice block, which is a good thing. Now you have Warrior. I think Warrior from Classic to TBC, it looks like a nerf in PvE, but I'd say it's like a proper buff to me because you're able to play two-hander arms Warrior. And yes, people are like swearing by dual wield kebab spec, which is fine, but I think the skill expression that you can have with two-hander is very good, and it actually does some good damage. Like you can pump, especially in AoE where you have sweeping strikes, and with dual wield you're not going to have like that spicy damage that you can do, while with a two-hander sweeping strikes, like the trash is going to be way more fun to do. And God knows like trash is like the worst thing to do in raids, or I think in dungeons as well. But you being able to do a sweeping strikes doing a lot of damage is like immense fun. And that classic, you don't really have that. A two-handed arms warrior, arms, not even fury, in raids, like that's not really that good. But in TBC, it becomes like something very special. And you're needed as an arms warrior. Like people are going to want to turn some fury warriors into arms and they're going to complain, but you yourself, you can take it up. You can say, oh, I want to be the arms warrior of the raid or the guild, and people will like you and you have a special spot. What they will do if the fury warriors, if no arms are there, they're going to rotate. 1 week you're this, 1 week you're that. But if you are the arms warrior, the dedicated arms warrior, generally speaking, you have a spot. And it's very hard to swap you because obviously a fury warrior that wants to only fury warrior, they will not like to go arms just to like support and doing like be in the cut group, kinda. So that's something that is also special. I think Fury is also very fun. Like you have two builds, you can go Rampage or you can go into Death Wish. I think also it's very fun to play without like having to search for like world buffs. I think it's like again, it seems like a nerf, but you are actually a killing machine. Like you do a lot of damage. People are not going to stack 20 warriors again, but I think with the changes and I think with warrior how they are and just the damage that they can do, they can parse very well. They can do very well, especially like week to week. You can decide, okay, I'm going to wreck this boss, I'm going to wreck that boss, and you can have fun with that. And not a lot of classes have that. You have like one unique CD that you can press, which is recklessness, and the fight kind of changes for you as well. Also, what is fun about warrior is also be able to tank dungeons. You can go protection. Protection is not like the meme that it is in classic, where it is not really good at threat. It's also not very good at like surviving. Besides having a shield, you could just be fury and like get the shield. It would be the same. Here, protection warrior actually is more tanky, is more useful than like going fury prot. And with dual spec in mind, you can actually like go fury one fight and go protection the next. Especially with shield wall, you can have like a shield wall tank basically for a progression boss where you have difficulties. That shield wall will save you. I think that's also very fun. And then you have PvP, which is probably what is like the iconic thing for warriors. Warriors in PvP are like the staple of the meta as well. Like people think about rogue, but they forget about warrior being every other comp facing 2v2 or 3v3. You will face warriors like constantly. And they have like a lot of like difficulties versus mages, for example, and roots and whatnot. But imagine if a warrior could connect every single time, 100% of the time, that would be like literally the healer being dead. If you have 100% uptime, the healer or the DPS is like not surviving. Imagine a mage being like close to a warrior every single time. They're getting 3-shotted, 4-shotted, sometimes even 2-shotted. Like it just takes a crit and a wind fury proc and bye bye the mage. And that's maybe like something that is kind of fun to play and to think about. Like in retail, you do have still a problem with that because again, roots and snares are really your worst enemy, but it's not as like juggernaut feeling than in TBC or in RAF or in Classic. If you are connecting and you have rage, like that MS does a lot of damage. That overpower, if like the rogue dodges, like he's scared, guys. Like he's not going to do a face to face versus you. Same for a warlock or a mage. They have to run if they want to survive. Like they're not going to face tank you. Sometimes they will, like especially a SLSL, they can like face tank you a bit. But like if you have the CDs, you have the health, and you have the rage, they can do whatever they want. They will die. And I really like warrior in PvP. Sometimes it is frustrating. It is a love-hate relationship, and I made a guide like yesterday about it, and it's a love-hate relationship. I would say it's a very good class, a very special class in my eyes. It's not for the faint of heart. It seems easy to play, but trust me, it is very frustrating to play if you like waste stuff that you should not be wasting. I think in general, like you have so much special uniqueness behind this version of Warrior that it has a special taste once you play it, and once you have like those moments where you crit everything, that's like unparalleled. You don't have that kind of feel with any class, and I would invite you guys to play Warrior if you're looking for a melee, a traditional melee, which has like some peels, not a lot of peels, and has like that juggernaut feel where you're like a walking war machine, and if someone gets in your range, you just blast them. That is the feel of a warrior. In twos, you're going to be paired up with a healer. In threes, you can be paired up with a healer and a DPS. You can play with a melee or you can play with a ranged DPS, like for example Warlock, and you can have a lot of fun. In fives, with the chaos, you can have a lot of fun as well in a lot of comps. And that's also like part of like TBC, the culture behind like the arenas and the comps. You have so many good comps, and warriors by itself not like a season defining class like rogue is with season 1. It is like a high contender of like best comps available, like rogue druid for example, or just in like rogue druid, warrior priest, warrior h-pal, warrior resto druid, um disc priest and resto shaman. You have a lot of comps available to you that it makes for a lot of like changing gameplay. Although you think like you're playing just warrior as it is, no, that's not true. If you play warrior resto druid or you play resto or warrior disc priest, those are two kind of different gameplays in my eyes. Like it's very different. I feel like a lot of people like misjudge warrior as the zug comp, zug class, but trust me, if you play with a priest or you play with a resto shaman or you play with a resto druid, the gameplay kind of changes. Like it's different. But a lot of people will know that when they play warrior, and they will probably know that. So let's talk about other classes now. Priest. Priest is the interesting class in like TBC. You have one good DPS class and one good healer class spec for PvP and PvE. For PvE, it will be Holy, and you sometimes run a disc priest to give a PI to the mage that really wants to parse. And you have Holy, which is the group healer, but you can like AoE heal with Circle of Healing, which is like a fun ability to press. And you have Prayer of Bending, where it just jumps around. It's auto healing pretty much. Like if Resto Shamans have Chain Heal, well, you have Prayer of Bending, which is like crazy healing for like a low city actually, and for actually low mana for how much it can heal. Then you have also your shields. You have your damage as well. Like again, think about Disc Priest in PvP, how much damage it can produce. Sometimes it produces even more damage than a rogue in twos, where you are like fully committed in damage. You have your shield reflecting, you have your Shadow Word Pain, you have your Shadow Word Death combined with a Mind Blast, then you have your Smite, your multicasting Shadow and Holy spells, where you're not really concerned of getting kicked on Shadow, so you do press it a bit more. I think it's like a very, very engaging gameplay when it comes down to PvP. You are dispelling, you're popping PI to dispel them naked, and then you have your pain suppression to survive, but you could also play with a silence without pain suppression, and that's a bit more greedy, but it is kind of making sense at the end, because you can actually like land kills within that like period of time where you're silencing someone. I think as a whole, Priest has like so many ways to play their spec, depending on the whole, like depending on the race, depending on the comp. You have a lot of variation, which is like making it a lot of fun playing it. Just talking about it just makes me hyped about it. Like Shadow Priest can play with a rogue or with a mage, and that gameplay itself, like those two comps play differently, but also can give so much pressure. Like if you put just two dots, Vampiric Touch, Pain, like Shadow Word Pain, and then if you're like undead, you put Devouring Plague, which itself does crazy amount of damage for a high mana cost, but you can also use your free spell for that. And you can just put a lot of pressure by doing those two dots, and then do a Mind Flay here and there, or do a Mind Blast. And with a Shadow Word Death, you could just also spam Shadow Word Pain rank 1 to get the Blackout stun. That's also a lot of possibilities for you. Then you have your Mass Dispel. All those mages in Classic thinking they're safe with Ice Block, and then pre-patch comes, at least like not pre-patch because it's not going to be available at level 60, but like TBC comes level 70, first BG, that mage think is like very safe in his size block, and then Mass Dispel. Goodbye. That's how fun it is with Priest. Like, you don't know how many times I played Shadow Priest in Classic with the mage eyes blocking in front of my eyes and telling myself, oh, I wish it was already TBC. And that was like, again, I think a lot of fun by having that. I'm going to log in before I get DC'd. Then you have Disc Priest, like again, a lot of possibilities, a lot of comps. I think Disc Rogue plays a lot of different, like a lot of different than like Disc Mage or Disc Warrior or hell Disc Hunter. You can also play like even Disc Feral Druid. You can play Disc Retribution Paladin, Disc Enhancement Shaman, which is like the worst nightmare for anyone that has a hot or a buff or somewhat healing through like hots or shields or like for example a priest gets just naked in just 2 globals, or a paladin trying to bob his friend instantly dispelled, or a mage that tries to like ice barrier them like themselves getting dispelled instantly by the enhancement shaman or the disc priest. You have a lot of like sweet comps to play. And although like DPR is probably the most popular comp for Disc Priest, and then you have DPM, and then you have probably Disc Priest Warrior, or you can have like Disc Priest Warlock. Those are like great comps to play, but like trust me, once you have seen Disc Priest Enhancement Shaman in action, sometimes you're going to tell yourself, "Whoa, damn! Like this is like crazy." And I think that is part of like how this can be played. Like you can play very aggressively with like a very big influence into shadow spec, or can play very defensively by having a lot of like self peels, a lot of like defenses, going to the holy tree, going to disc very deeply to get like the self protection, the again more healing, more stamina, more intellect, more everything. Like I think it's quite fun to play. So if you're looking into like a not that traditional healer, but like a good healer that is also playing aggressively, I think Priest is like awesome, especially like in raids. You're going to be able to play Holy, which is a lot different than Disc, so you have somewhat of a different play style as well that you can like taste a bit, which I think is fun. Like a bit of variety, a bit of flex is something that is very fun to have. And then you have also your Shadow Priest, which is again one of the best rotations in PvE. Like again, if you don't want to be bored and you're playing a caster, you should be playing Priest. You should be playing Shadow Priest. Getting your Shadow Pain, Vampiric Touch, your Mind Blast on CD, your Mind Flays while you're waiting on your Mind Blast CD. You have to refresh your dots because if they drop, that kind of sucks. You have obviously Shadow Word Death. When do you press it? Do you feel like, okay, now you can do Mind Blast, Shadow Word Death to have like an instant damage and then do Mind Flays? Or do you take too much rate damage? Is it like a big risk to do a Shadow Word Death? Do you don't? Like, a lot of things that you have to decide for yourself. I think that's a fun aspect of like raiding as a caster. If again my main is Warlock, I know I'm going to be kind of bored at the rotation. I'll be happy about the crits, don't get me wrong, but if I'm playing like Shadow, I know I'm not going to be bored. I'm not going to fall asleep while doing the rotation. Well, as a Warlock that can happen. Like pressing one the whole time can be very boring. But Shadow Priest has like a sort of piano gameplay where you're pressing 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4 with the Mind Flay in mind, right? And then you have Mind Blast again, which is a 3, and then you have your big Shadow Word Death, which is on B for me, for example. Like that's very fun to have like that active gameplay where my keyboard is not going to be used on one the whole time, that I have to change the key until it is broken. So again, you can also do the mouse screen up and down, but that's not really the thing I'm using personally. Let's talk about Druid now. Druid, what can I say? If you want to have like a master of everything pretty much, you should be playing Druid. And no, it's not like Classic where you are like second fiddle for a lot of stuff. That's not true. I think Balance Druid actually has a place in Raid. I think it also does some okay damage if it's like a short fight and you get like lucky crits and whatnot. Like that's really like if Starfire crits, like if you crit all your Starfires, you're going to be actually very high in the DPS charts. If for some reason you want to use Innovate for yourself, Balance Rate is actually also okay, but again, you most likely are going to use your Innovate on the Mage, but that's okay, you have a spot. You're not like laughed at like in Classic. You're not like the boomkin dancing support for the raid. No, you are like an active member of the raid. You are doing some serious DPS. Although you are not like top dog, you are actually doing okay DPS. And if you look at the charts, the DPS meters are like kind of very close to each other. Like it's not like as clear cut as in classic where you have warrior, rogue, mage, and then the rest. That's not really what's happening. And then obviously you have PvP where you can pop Treants, you can pop your huge amount of damage, you can spam Moonfire, which is still something that people regard as a new play, but you are wrecking people with it. And you just need like one rogue that trusts you kinda to make that comp very good and very fun. Is it like the best comp? Is it the best spec in PvP? No, but trust me, when you're going to BGs with your fully geared Boomkin and you're trying to do a Starfire on anyone and it crits, that guy is going to then be in love with Boomkin and will try to play Boomkin themselves. That's how much damage you can do. Doing a 4k Starfire is not like a far dream of yours. Like that's like legitimately something that can happen without the Zerker buff. If you have the Zerker buff, I can like send you so many YouTube videos of people doing TBC phase 2, phase 3 PvP in BGs as a Boomkin, and they're doing 5.6Ks with Berserker buff. Obviously, you're not going to have that buff every single time, but like imagine yourself getting the buff as a Boomkin. That guy is sitting in a root, rotting, and they don't have a shield reflect, obviously, and then gets like a Starfire plus Moonfire crit both deleted. And then you have your Treants on the caster getting smacked, pushbacked, really hating his life because of those freaking Treants on them. I think that's a huge amount of fun that you can have. And I think people really look at Boomkin and think that's like a meme. I truly think like Boomkin is not a meme. Like it's a legit spec, even in BGs, even in arenas, even in open world. In open world, you are like a minute. Like I don't think you want to face a Boomkin in open world, but if you want to face one, like trust me, it's a very annoying fight. You can off heal. You're very useful, like in all stages of the game. Yes, like people will probably shoehorn you into dream state at one point. It is what it is. But if you want to have instant fun, I think phase 1 Boomkin is actually very fun. And it actually does insane amount of damage. And yeah, I think by talking about it makes me want to play it. I just don't know if I have a spot for Druid in my like main characters, but we'll see. Then you have Feral Druid, which is probably the most technical PvP spec that you could play. Like, I think if you are looking into like a very hard spec to play and to main, I think Feral Druid is really up there. Season 1 Feral Druid kind of like is not that bad, but it's also not that good. It's very technical, very comp oriented, very rogue oriented as well, because again, your rogue has to be very good. You don't have like so good like gear available because you are like running with a lot less crit. You're running with a lot of like less agility in general. Where in season 3 you will be enabled. Here you're not really that enabled. I think it's a very fun spec to learn and to like progress in it, but it can be frustrating as well because again you have like a gimped tier set for PvP, but it comes down in PvE. Like if you want to be cat, like don't get yourself down. Like people talk about cat Feral Druid as if it's like the least amount of damage. They put them in C tier or whatever. I think Feral Druid cat form is not bad. Like the issue is they don't drop threat very well. So it means that you can pump very hard and like snap threat very easily. That sucks. Like that really sucks. And you are technically, not technically, you are just a very bad AoE spec. You are probably the only spec with like no AoE capacities. Even Shadow Priest can just multi-dot. Not very mana friendly, but they can do that. A Feral Druid, if they want to AoE, like there is no option. Like they can technically not AoE until Wrath, where you just press like swipe the whole time. But I think in general, Feral Druid is like a very strong single target boss killer. It just is like not very good for your threat. Like if you want to pump, unfortunately you will be like pulling threat, and that's why you're not really that welcome. And they would prefer a rogue, or they would prefer a warrior, or they would prefer a lot of stuff. Um, but yeah, I think in general, if you are a feral druid, you're more likely to play like bear, which is fine in PvE. And you will fight sometimes some fights as a cat because you're not needed as a bear, and that's also fine. Then you have like some gameplay that is going to be altering depending on fights, and your gear doesn't change that much, so it's not like you're going to have to run for two separate gears. Often not, you're going to stay at the gear that you are as a bear form. You're as a tank druid, so that's fine. In PvP, like I said, in twos, you're going to run with a rogue, and it's insanely fun, but also very technical. And most of the losses that you're going to have are either because of a resist, which can happen and will happen as a rogue, because a rogue is going to cheap shot kidney. If one thing resists, that kind of really is sucky for you, and you are very likely to like reset and try to heal, and your mana bar is not that friendly in season 1, but it's very satisfying to play when it works. When it works, it is super fun, and that's one of the ways to enjoy yourself as a feral druid. All in all, I think I couldn't like recommend more if you're looking for like something hard to play and satisfying to play at the same time. Is it for everyone? No, but if you are like a druid lover and you played feral in classic, for God's sake, you should be playing classic TBC as well as a feral druid. That's my 2 cents. Then you have resto druid, which like again live bloom, man, live bloom, rejuve actually doing stuff, regrowth being casted as well. All in all, like tranquility still heals for a ton if you're able to cast it. Even in PvE, in PvP, like it's a lot of healing, like a lot of group healing as well. And you have multitude of like builds you can play. You can play tree form. You can play also deep resto without tree, going to insect swarm and bear form, feral charge, and all those things. You can also play dream state, which is more aggressive as well with a rogue, for example. That spec is iconic to TBC. In RAF, it becomes less good. It still is good, but less than in TBC in my eyes. And then Cataclysm, it becomes like even worse in my opinion. It becomes like a non-resto druid friendly expansion. And TBC is like resto druid at its finest in my opinion. Like it's a very very good TBC spec, a very good PvP spec, a very good PvE spec. You're going to be loved and like desired for a lot of reasons. But if you say Resto Druid looking for 2v2, you're going to get whispered by rogues, warriors, hunters, and warlocks, obviously. Like you're going to have such a free time to find people, and people are going to be like a bit more lenient with you because they want you as a friend. They're not going to like kick you after the first mistake. So if you want to learn something, I think Resto Druid is like a good class to learn how to heal and to be mobile. It's not like on the same way as Disc Priest. I think Disc Priest has to like do a lot of stuff to get the win, which is like not hard stuff to do, but it's still like you have to be offensive. As a Resto Druid, you can even win by just like running around the whole time. You need to feral charge, like the costs, for example. You need to survive, and phase 1 is literally the weakest phase for Resto Druid. Like the more further we are in the phases, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4, like you're going to get more tanky, you're going to get more items, you're going to get more resilience, and that itself is going to make you very 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 tanky, and that's also a very fun way to play. And again, should I talk about those tier sets, guys? Like whew, like this is like legit. Like I just look at this and it just makes me want to play a druid in general. So if you want to play like a iconic TBC class, this is the one. This is the TBC class when it comes down to what people remember in TBC. They remember Live Bloom, they remember Cyclone, they remember Dream State, they remember the whole Druid shtick. They also remember Bear Form. Like if you're like looking into tanking, I think Bear Form, like Bear Druids are like insane in a lot of aspects. I think people like downplay the heroics when it comes down to bear like tanking druids, that's like a lie. I think in general you're going to be desired regardless. They're not going to look for paladin tanks the whole time. They're going to look for a tank, and bear druids are like insane at tanking and threat. And the same for like in raids, you're going to be very desired if you are like looking into tanking. And it's also a very fun experience in my eyes. I think it's not that boring. It has a legit strategy, and I think it's also fun to be like one of the most tankiest bastards in the game. And that's like a very good compliment when it comes down to a class. Then we talk about rogue. Can I say the season 1 best class in TBC, the supreme, the alpha, and the omega? Yes, it is like rogue, and rogue is like the cement when it comes down to meta in TBC PvP. In PvE, you're going to have a spot as improved exposed armor. I'm not going to sell lies and dreams. You're going to be having a rough time finding a spot. That's normal. You just have to find a good guild. You have to find like a little je ne sais quoi, a little be able to play the rogue and be able to be the little man plus the DPS that does bring the extra. And that is your support and your social aspect. If you're like a social machine, I think rogue has a legit spot in range. Like you can find a spot if you are like very good at politics. If you're like me and you just like, I'm running a PvP hub like guild basically in Spine Shadow, so I have a lot of rogues in the guild. I'll be running with more rogues. That's normal. And I don't mind having 3 rogues in a 25 man. Is it going to be extremely good? It's okay, but you still are going to clear that content. But in PvP, man, that's a revenge. Like if you think about it, they are like outcasts in PvE, but in PvP they are like the masterclass of everything. They have so many comps they can play in. I generally am surprised at how many comps you can play in 2s and 3s. You are just a machine. Like the very good rogues, they run with like 4 weapons on them. They have all different poisons, and they swap those poisons depending on who you're facing and when they're facing and if they need a blind or not. Hell, they can even play with deadly poisons on the offhand when it's a 1v1 and you know, okay, I don't have blind, I don't need to reset. I'll just bleed them and poison them till death. You have sub rogue, which is like with shadow step, which is a big improvement of classic. You are really the 1v1 machine. If you want to reset and you have CDs, you can reset. Basically, just a pillar is enough to get stuff. And I think in general, you are really good at season 1 because everyone is like low armor, low resilience, low health, and you are really deadly. And once you have armor pen, even warriors are going to cry. I think in general, you have like such a interesting class. You can play with so many comps that are playing all differently from one another, that you have kind of the possibility to choose with who you're playing. If you want to play with a mage, okay, that's the combat you're going to play. If you want to play with a shadow priest, you have to do this. If you are playing with a lock, it's scripted, coil the kidney. Once kidney is gone, if they trick it or not, you coil it and then you silence it and then you garrote it. GG's, that guy is dead. Obviously a resist can happen. Obviously the second target has to be CC'd. And you have to have something extra, which is the damage, to finish off the target. But I think everything you can play with the rogue has like something different, something tasteful, something very flavorful, that is like something that is not like paralleled when it comes down to World of Warcraft TBC. I think playing rogue or playing warrior or playing druid, at the end everything's fun, but rogue has a special place in my heart when it comes down to having like dumb fun. If looking in world PvP, because again we have now balanced servers, so you will have world PvP. Being a stuffy motherfucker is going to be very handy, and like you can be a real motherfucker, and everyone has that motherfucking like personality when it comes down to gaming, like that muhaha feeling when you are like going to catch someone when they're questing or whatever, and you're killing them with a cheap shot kidney, sometimes just doing a bleed and then throw a weapon the whole way through because he's slowed with crippling poison. He's not going to catch you. He has 10% health. What is the best idea to be a BM, like a bad mannered guy, like go thrown weapon his ass, like shoot, 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 and kill him. Like even like finish him off with a shadow step kidney, let him bleed, and run away. Like that's something that is like happening, and that will happen, and maybe you are going to give that punishment to someone. Again, I said multiple comms. You can play with a healer. You can play in threes as well with multitude of comms. In fives, you are very desired because you can literally make someone be KO the whole time. You are literally playing with cities from a different expansion. Can I say that? You have literally double vanish, double evasion, cloak on 1 minute CD. You have obviously shadow step that is also going to be able to be preparation. You can literally remove the CD of shadow step, so you can shadow step and then preparation shadow step again. You can run away from a lot of stuff in BGs as well by doing that. So basically you have the flag, shadow step onto one target, preparation, shadow step on the different target, kidney or not kidney but gouge, run away with sprint. That's something that can happen and will happen in BGs as well. I think in general you can have a lot of fun. And I would recommend Rogue, but it's shooting in my own foot because I'm playing Warlock. I don't want to face rogues. I hate rogues with the bottom of my heart. For some reason, I resist no kidneys, but someone else resists all the kidneys. When I play Rogue, everything resists. When I'm playing against Rogue, everything works. That's the pure, like, stupidity of human beings, like thinking that everything happens because it's you, while the other people don't have it. That's something that is very common for anyone playing this game. Like, oh, I'm like resisting everything with my kidney shots on like the target, but I am like literally stun locked every single time, forgetting about the many times you're getting like resists on stuns. So I think it's a very fun class, and I would recommend everyone to play it, especially for PvP. Do you need PvE gear? If you want to be competitive, you kind of need it, but I have seen fully PvP geared rogues do very well. They're a bit more tanky as well. They will deal less damage because you have some thresholds where PvE gear will enable you to finish off a target while PvP gear will not be able to do so. But you're also very much tanky and you could like survive goes. Like you're not getting 3-shotted if you're PvP geared. So if that is what is holding you back, you shouldn't. I think you should be playing it even if PvP is only what you carry, you don't want a PvE. I think it's still okay to play Rogue and I would recommend it. Now Shaman is fun. It's special. Elemental Shaman has like again a very big place in my heart because it's like my OG class from back in the day. I played Elemental Shaman like in Cataclysm, real Cataclysm, in real Wrath. I didn't play TBC high level Shaman, but it was always someone that I like, a class that I was leveling, and it's immense amount of fun, but frustrating in arenas. But if you can make it work with a mage, with a good mage, and you can do it very well, and that's like very fun to do if you are like clicking with a mage and that's your friend, you can make it work. It plays very offensively. You have Purge, you have Bloodlust in arena. You are zapping, like literally zapping people, and it just takes a few crits to like delete someone. That's why you're a menace. That's why you are the target in arenas in general. Like they're not going to make you free cast lightning bolts and chain lightning. You have to work for it. In threes, you have like legit comps available. It's not like the best comps, obviously, because your time is in Wrath. Not gonna lie, in Wrath you become the elemental shaman that everyone knows. It can be. You do lose a bit of the classic vibe of like the spell bashing on your elemental mastery, where you're critting, double critting every single time. Here you're not going to double crit anymore, but you still have like the crit chance that is able to double crit. That still is like a factor that can happen. In PvE, you're not laughed at. You're very liked as well. You're shaman, basically. You're going to be praised and glorified by any guild in Alliance, for example. If you're a Draenei Elemental Shaman or a Resto Shaman or Enhancement Shaman, you're still going to get whispered. Like, trust me, in pre-patch, if you're leveling a Shaman and you are guildless, you're going to get whispered by people aggressively to join their guild, saying that you have a spot there, you will be promised gear, you will be promised everything, play whatever spec you want, but we need you, kind of thing. You still need 5 shamans if you want to like cover every single group with like totems, but you can play with 4 or 3 shamans. It's not like the end of the world because you have bloodlust. But like the big shaman spec that everyone talks about is enhancement shaman, and I trust that you will be playing with 2 enhancement shamans if you can, because you want to have 2 melee groups, like physical damage groups, and enhancement shaman is the best at that in PvE. Like it's good damage, active damage. Is it like as hard as like in RAF where you have to do a rotation, you have like spell hands available and whatnot? In TBC, you are like strong and it's not as hard to do rotation. You have you have totem twisting, but it's not as hard if you have like an add-on covering it. In PvP, like I said, in 2s you can play with a disc priest as enhancement shaman, and that's also very fine. It's actually very good. And in 3s you play turbo with a warrior and have fun. I think personally you don't need any other comps to play in. I think enhancement shaman disc priest is especially very good because you're able to do a lot of damage. Now you're very susceptible to rogues as everyone, because you're going to get like your disc priest is going to get sapped. You gotta have to survive the sap. But that's it. Like I think in general you have a lot of ways to have fun and dumb fun with enhancement shaman. Again, you have multitude of videos, and that's like videos that can be reproduced again and again. Two-hander enhancement shaman getting like a big Wind Fury proc with a lot of damage. You can one-shot people. You can one-shot any clothy that has like no protections, no buffs. Just need to touch in once, and that's like a fun way to play the game. I think if I could boost a shaman, I would do. That's like the main takeaway. If I could boost a Draenei shaman, I would do it and I would main it. I just don't have the energy to level it again. But then we talk about the one spec that is actually very good in TBC for arenas, like for a lot of ways, and it is with Resto Shaman. I think Resto Shaman is decent at doing what they do, and it is like enabling your melee friends to one shot. You can also play with a Pump Pyro. Faced a lot of them in TBC PTR, where they are like Pump Pyro with a Resto Shaman, and it's very annoying to deal with. I really hate facing one of them. Like I really genuinely hate it. It's so hard to like open on them, and you know that you're going to get blown, so you have to play very carefully. And Resto Shaman has some very good comps available to them, like Retribution Paladin, Resto Shaman, which the rest Retribution Paladin plays with Reckoning, for example. It's very hard to open up on anyone because they're going to get wreck bombs literally with a Wind Fury proc, and that could delete anyone. And you have Purge, which is very offensive. Resto Shaman is one of the hardest specs to play, in my opinion, when it comes down to healing, because you have to cost everything, and you have to purge actively, and you have to survive as well, and you have to kite as well, and you have to put your totems as well at the right times, refresh those totems, try to understand how to get CC'd and how to avoid that CC. Like, I think it's like immense amount of fun to learn. Personally, I would not play Resto Shaman if I had the choice of playing Resto Shaman. I would be playing Enhancement Shaman or Elemental Shaman, but I think in general the class is just so desired in PvE and has real application in PvP. Like again, any Retribution Paladin would want to play with you in 2s. Every warrior that has like the intention of like pumping with Wind Fury will want to play with you. Like I think it's like a lot of fun available that is like not accessible for everyone to play. So that is for the Shaman. So now let's speed up the video because I'm already very late. Mage. In PvE, you're going to play Arcane Mage, and you are... I don't know if you're very desired. And of course, I have a disconnect. I'm going to reconnect. I'm very sorry. Mage is not going to be that desired because you have that many mages, unfortunately. But you have a spot or 2 or 3 in a 25-man. You're dealing a lot of damage. Like, you are top dog. And yes, some people are like talking about parses that are kind of like silly. For example, the Nightbane parse is really like dumb because they just spell steal and beamed. But you are still like top 3 in my opinion, like depending on what kind of raid you are, like if you're getting a lot of help or not. And you are like very, very much of a menace. Like, you are kind of boring to play, I'm not gonna lie, in Arcane Blast, but it is hype to be able to deal a lot of damage. In my opinion, it is like very fun to be able to do big damage. But yeah, if you're looking into like a pure rotational class, that is not really the case. But in PvP, you are. In PvP, you are playing Frost Mage, Bomb Pyro. You can even play Deep Fire. You can play even Deep Arcane. I think in general, you have a lot of like comps available to you. You can play with a healer, with Disc, for example, or you can play double DPS with a Rogue, or double Mage is also possible, with a Shockadin is also possible, with a Restore Shaman is possible. I already talked about it on the different classes, but you are the... If Rogue is Alpha and Omega, you are definitely like very close to it. The only issue is probably because it is season 1, you don't have Spell Haste. But once you have Spell Haste, like that is a... it's an annoying class to play against. It is like very technical as well. If you mess up, you mess up. But you can learn that. It's different than Warlock. You have like IB, you have like a Blink that you can run away with. You have a pet and a second pet that you can reset as well, that can bring a CC, which is a root, for example, with Freeze. You have insane amount of damage available to you, where Iceland doesn't break Nova sometimes. Actually, just really luck based. Sometimes it breaks on the first Iceland, sometimes it doesn't break. It is really a lot of damage, and it's very hard to counter a mage that is doing and they know what to do. And it's a very, very good class when it comes down to like having fun, because you have like that many specs available to you. You are not really shoehorned into Frost Mage. You could play Pompyro and have huge success with it, especially season 1 with resilience being that low and HP being that low. I got critted 5k Pyroblast, man. Like that's half of my HP. And even more if I'm playing like Rogue. Like Rogue, I think runs with 9k HP, which is crazy. And yes, you have some counters, but I think Mage is also very well regarded in TBC. In RAF, you get Deep Freeze. I'm not gonna lie, that's also a very high like standard to beat. But in TBC, you have Icelands, and Icelands itself brings a lot to the table, and you have even more CC available to you, and you still are like the killing machine that is very annoying to deal with. Like Polymorph is super hard to beat in general. Like that's like one of the best CCs, if not the best CC in the game, because it's on an Arcane school. Getting like kicked on Arcane is not that bad for you, because you still have like other stuff available to you. While Warlock, if they want to fear to get kicked on Shadow, that really sucks, because you have nothing you can apply except Searing Pains or Immolates or Soulfire, for God's sake. So I think in general Mage is insanely fun when it's played correctly. I don't think I'm going to main one, because I'm a bit too much of a Warlock in my heart. And so every time I'm playing Mage, it feels like I'm thinking like a Warlock while I'm not. It's like a very, very good spec when it comes down to like holding someone down, and like warriors are going to cry in their corner every single time they're going to be Nova. When I say warrior, I say me. And it's very hard to outplay a mage. Like you can outplay a mage, but it is very hard. And once you know what to do and what to mage, I think in general you're going to be like a menace in PvP. And even in BGs you can play Bomb Pyro, and it is really annoying to get one-shotted sometimes. You can play even Fire, you can play Arcane, you can play Frost. You have so much availability when it comes down to having fun, that it would be silly to just like hold yourself onto Frost and that's it. I think playing Pompyro at least once, or with a dual spec, is a legit way to have fun. So I wish you guys to play it. Then we have Paladin. That's an insane fun spec to play. I played Retribution Paladin recently with like Cactus Paladin kind of, which is if you do get hit, you get wreck, and then you pop Divine Shield, and you have the same amount of attack speed because you went that deep in protection that you can actually take the debuff, cancel debuff on the Divine Shield. And it is a very, very one-shot heavy spec. If you want to have fun with a Wind Fury getting full crit and then boom, someone is deleted, that is a spec. It's like not for everyone. Again, you don't have that many abilities to press when it comes down to dealing damage. Not everyone wants to Seal Twist, but if you are like a very, very good Seal Twister, like that is very hard to avoid. You can slow a Druid down. You're the only one that can perma-slow the Druid. And when I say slow, I mean staying at normal speed, which is not good for the druid. You can like literally walk all over them, and that's like something that no class can do. Like slowing permanently a druid, that cannot be possible. And it's very hard to face a paladin as a druid because you're like kind of you have a habit where you shapeshift to get away, but as a paladin you cannot run away from a paladin. Like you cannot shapeshift or like power shift travel form to get away, and you're spending mana for nothing. So that's something that is very annoying to deal with, and I think in general is like a playstyle that is legitimately a fun playstyle to do. And then you have Shokarin, also very fun. I already made a video about it if you want to check it out. Holy Paladin, I think I don't have that much positive to say, but I think it's fun to play one of the most tankiest specs when it comes down to surviving. Now, you will cost a lot. Your time is kind of Wrath of the Lich King, the same as Elemental Shaman. But you can play Shokarin and you can find a mage and have fun with that. And in general, in like raids, you're going to be liked, especially as a tank. Protection Paladin is going to be very, very wanted in heroics, for example, or in dungeons, like normal dungeons, or like in raids as well. You want one in general. At least like in a 25 man, you would like to want to have like at least a tank for every kind of spec, like for example Protection Paladin, Feral Druid, and a Protection Warrior. If not, you go for 2 Feral Druids and 1 Protection Paladin, but often you will want to get at least 1 Protection Paladin. Retribution Paladin has like a lot of damage as well in raids, like Seal Twisting, Wind Fury. You get the threat, you die, but you did die in class. Like it's you pumping so hard that you take revenge on every single laugh that you had in classic. And in 2s, like I said, also in 3s, like you have legit comps. Like I think Retribution Planning Resto Shaman is like a legit comp. Like it's really hard to beat. It's very hard to beat actually. I really hate facing them. Like with anyone, I really despise them. Like it deals so much damage. You have to survive the bloodlust, and sometimes you cannot. Sometimes you're getting one-shotted and GG's, it's over. And then the Divine Shield and you have like nothing. Like it's very hard. So it is acquired taste though. And then I want to talk about Hunter. Like it has been a very long video, but I wanted to hype you guys up, and I'm kind of losing a bit of steam. Hunter. Drain is fun if it works very well, like seeing the healer getting traumatized by it, or like putting a frost trap and a flare and running circles behind a pillar is also very toxic, but god, it really is fun to play. Like it is very annoying to face one that is very good at. And you could also play BM, and BM season 1, it does amazing damage, and I prefer playing it with a rogue, but you can also play with a disc priest. I just prefer to have the lockdown of a rogue to be able to pop Beast or Wrath and then just like pop my damage. It is very surprising how many like specs you can play. You can play deep MM, you can play survival MM, so with scatter trap, scatter shot available to you. You can play BM. I think in general, if you want to have fun while learning, Hunter is also very good at that in PvP. In PvP, you have multitude of comps you can play. You can play with a healer, so with a Resto Druid or with Disc Priest. Mostly, you're going to be playing for draining the enemy, so with Viper Stinging. I personally don't like that gameplay, but that's why Bestial Wrath is also possible for you. So playing BM Hunter is possible, and you can be successful at it. And you can still drain the enemy with Viper Stings, but you are there to try to pump the enemy. And making them spend more mana for healing is also a sort of drain aspect when it comes down to it. You are very good at CC, you are very much of a CC machine. Like if you're playing versus a Warrior Druid, that Warrior is not going to touch you for very long because you can scatter trap. Obviously the Druid can eat it, but that's something that they have to do while you can just do your rotation, and you can outplay them. You have also like a Wyvern Sting to be able to sleep someone. Again, a CC potential. You can also play Deep MM, where you have a stance where mages are going to detest playing versus you. And then you have like obviously your BM Hunter, which is like a crazy damage. And Season 1 pets are like disgusting to play against. And I think also the tier sets are like beautiful as well to play in. So I really recommend Hunter if you want to play a class that is actually hard to play, even though people still call it a noob class for some reason, especially in BGs. But in Arena, it is far from being a noob class. Like, if you are good at Hunter, you are a good player. Like, it's very hard to like compare it with a bad class or like a easy class, because it is not easy. And then in raids, you are like very desired. You can play survival. You need one in every raid if you want to have the best amount of damage for the meaties or physical damage dealers. And then you have your BM, which is like the biggest damage dealers in the game when it comes down to like truly dealing damage. Then you have obviously your meaty weavers, which puts them even more on top. And that is a skill by itself, and it's also fun to play. Me myself, like if I would be playing Hunter, I would definitely try to meaty weave, because I did that in Classic. And it's like a very fun way to play the game, because it's very active. It's also like a very active rotation that is not like really able to be reproduced by everyone. Some people might do meaty weaves and they don't know that they're going to clip an auto attack, while you, if you do it perfectly, that's like high-end gameplay. Like, it's really resembling like a rotation that is like merging two classes in one, which is very fun as well. So hopefully with this video I did hype you guys up. I talked about every single class. I'm very tired. Again, a 1 hour video. I don't know how my voice is going to hold up, but whatever. It's fun to be able to talk about every single class. I do that like literally every week. I'm very sorry if it feels like I'm repeating myself. I think I did not repeat myself, but if you think I repeated myself, well, please let me know. I think you can have a lot of fun with these classes, and I wish you guys a lot of luck finding a main. Hopefully, I gave you a bit of a headache deciding which class you're going to main. Me myself, like, I'm living with headaches about like TBC classes, which one I'm going to boost, which one I'm going to main. I'm pretty decided about Warlock and Warrior, but I still have 2 spots to play with, especially in PvP. I think since the tier sets and the gear is like a bit nerfed on the PTR, I think that's fun to be able to buy gear for less time spent. So you can be playing 3 or 4 characters and still be fully geared pretty fast as well. I think the hardest part is leveling those characters. Anyways, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye.